Words of advice.
It's fun to be fooled. It's more fun to know. By Robert Benchley, 1933. Here are some of the tricks of sleight of hand which I used to do when I was a small boy, together with complete explanations of how each trick was done. I may be incurring the ire of the Society of Magicians, as certain cigarette advertisers have done, by giving away these secrets of the black art, which I have guarded for so many years. That is, if I can remember them. But times are hard, and magic has become more or less a pedestrian trade, and I feel that I am quite within my rights in sharing with the world the details of my erstwhile relationship with the forces of darkness. You must remember that my only equipment in this legerdemain, aside from the natural dexterity of a boy of 11, was a set of implements forwarded to me by a soap firm in Glastonbury, Connecticut, in return for some slight favor I had done them in connection with soap wrappers. The entire set could be easily concealed in a wardrobe trunk, and when brought into the room where the feats were to be performed, attracted no more attention than a traveling dog and monkey circus would have done. A great many of my audience often detected nothing unusual about my appearance other than several bulging pockets, which might have come from carrying small puppies in them, or possibly a slight indistinctness in speech due to my mouth being full of odds and ends of apparatus such as coins, eggs, and flags of all nations. Aside from these items, I was innocence itself. The Bewitched Flowerpot. Illusion. What seems to be an ordinary tin flower pot, except that it's the size and shape of a rolling pin, is open to show the audience that it is completely empty. In fact, the magician's wand is inserted into the opening and moved gingerly about to prove the point. The cover is then readjusted and tapped several times too many with the wand. During this tapping, an almost imperceptible move is made, turning the pot upside down, and when the cover is taken off again, a rose bush in full bloom is disclosed. Well, perhaps not a rose bush, and perhaps not in full bloom, but at any rate, a bunch of red paper flowers slightly crushed. The audience is astounded. Explanation. The flower pot is not a real flower pot, but a contraption with two separate compartments, one containing nothing, which the audience is permitted to see first, and the other containing the rose bush in full bloom. The almost imperceptible movement turning the pot upside down really does turn it upside down, so that the empty compartment is on the bottom and the rose compartment on top. The rest is easy. The ghostly finger. Illusion. A derby hat is borrowed from someone in the audience, or one belonging to the magician is used. It is passed about for examination to prove that there are no holes in it, yet, and is then held top toward the spectators, and a handkerchief is wrapped around it. Possibly the magician's back is turned to the audience for the fraction of a minute, as if he were looking for something behind him, while a running line of clever patter distracts the attention of those present. On removing the handkerchief, the magician's forefinger is seen protruding from the top of the hat, to all appearances having been thrust through the material. The handkerchief is then wrapped again around the hat, the back possibly turned again for a few seconds, and when the handkerchief is removed, there is no finger and no hole. Several of the more nervous ladies swoon. Explanation. A wax finger with a long pin attachment is used in this trick. The magician palms the wax finger. To palm, in the lingo of the devil's disciples, is to conceal an object in the palm of the hand so cleverly that it looks as if the hand were empty, or at any rate merely convulsed in rigor mortis. When the handkerchief is being wrapped around the hat the first time, the pin is inserted into the top part of the derby and grasped by the hand which is inside the hat. This, unless the pin is pushed only halfway in, gives the effect of the finger actually coming through the hat. Otherwise, it gives the effect of the finger and pin coming through the hat, which is not so mystifying. When the handkerchief is passed again, the finger pin is pulled out and palmed once more, care being taken this time, of all times, not to drop it on the floor. The astounding string. Illusion. A piece of string, which for some reason has been run through two cylindrical pieces of wood and for some other reason has two small glass beads attached to either end, is cut with a knife so that it hangs in two distinct pieces. This in itself is startling enough. But when the two cylinders are placed together and subjected to the influence of the wand, with the result that the string is again pulled back and forth between them as freely as it ever was, the effect is electric. Explanation. Never quite clear even to the magician. Somehow the string is either joined together or another piece of string run through the cylinders or something. Owing to this haziness concerning the basic principles of the trick, it was not always performed with complete success, and very often not even tried. What is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Mind reading. Illusion. This is a feat based on a similar, though more elaborate one performed in India. A member of the audience leaves the room, and the rest decide on some object which he is to be willed to touch when he returns. Let us say that it is a hassock. The absentee is then sent for, and the control, the magician himself, fixes his gaze on him and says, "Will you hassock ice cream?" Immediately, the subject walks across the room and touches a plate of ice cream. Pandemonium ensues. Explanation. The one who leaves the room is in reality a confederate of the magician, who has been practicing the act since 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It has been agreed that whatever the object to be touched is, the control will introduce its name into a sentence apparently spoken at random. Thus, if the object selected has been a radiator, the sentence would be, "Have you had any radiators today?" Catch on? Where the instance quoted above was faulty was that two possibilities were mentioned in the same sentence. Eternal vigilance is the only guard against this sort of slip-up. Thus we see that no matter how mystifying a feat of legerdemain or mind-reading may be, there is always an explanation for it somewhere in the archives of black art. But human nature being what it is, people would much rather be fooled in this manner than deal day in and day out with the obvious and transparent things of life. Once again, I apologize to the Society of Magicians for spilling the beans.